I was suddenly hit by a car on my way to a prenatal checkup, and when I woke up, the baby in my womb had died. Overwhelmed with grief, I cried day and night, only to unexpectedly discover that the accident was orchestrated by my husband. He deliberately tampered with the brake system just to obtain the umbilical cord blood of my unborn child to save the son he had with his ex-wife, who had leukemia. After their child was saved, he thrived in good health, and the family lived happily ever after. Yet my child passed away without even seeing its mother, while I was left disabled from the car accident, unable to care for myself. When I went to confront them, I was humiliated, insulted, and beaten to death by the two of them. Opening my eyes, I found myself reborn back on the day of the prenatal checkup. This time, I gently touched my belly and silently vowed. Since fate has given us a second chance, then it's their turn to die. Ruth, I have something to attend to today. Can you manage the prenatal checkup on your own? Opening my eyes, I saw my husband Rhett looking at me with concern. I found myself curled up on the sofa, surrounded by soothing piano music. A slight movement came from my heavy belly, and my supposedly numb, disabled legs were tapping rhythmically to the beat. But hadn't I already? Glancing at the calendar on the wall, I understood in an instant. I had been reborn, and just back to the day of the prenatal checkup. This day would be the moment my soul descended into darkness. What's wrong? Is the baby kicking you again? Red saw me clutching my stomach and affectionately embraced me, whispering in my ear. No, I can go by myself, it's fine. I'll go back to the room to pack first. Thinking back to the events of my past life, a wave of disgust washed over me, and I instinctively pushed him away. As I returned to the bedroom, I secretly took his frequently used bag with me when he wasn't paying attention. After packing my clothes, Rhett's impatient voice faintly drifted in from the living room. Stop rushing me, will you? You're anxious, but I'm even more anxious than you are. The entire city A is under my control, where could she possibly run to? Just relax. In my previous life, he explained that the debtor had run away. But now I clearly understand. The person on the other end of the phone was his ex-wife, Lilith. Their 8-year-old son had leukemia and wanted to use my unborn child's umbilical cord blood to save his life. Knowing I still had 2 months until my due date and would never agree to an early C-section, they schemed relentlessly to trick me. As I pushed the door open, Red hurriedly stuffed the phone into his pocket and lit a cigarette. When he saw the luggage in my hand, he frowned. Honey, why are you bringing that to your prenatal checkup? What for? To guard against you, the demon, of course. Still, I explained in a gentle tone, there are only 2 months left until the due date. I want to visit my mom after the prenatal checkup, or it'll be even more inconvenient later on. Red seemed somewhat hesitant. He stood by the window, gazing at the distant parking lot, and after a moment, exhaled a large cloud of smoke. Fine, then I'll take you. Red insisted on seeing me off to the car. He placed the luggage in the trunk and, after making sure I was seated, gave the driver a few instructions before his phone rang. It must have been Lilith calling to hurry him. He left in a rush. Madam, please fasten your seatbelt, the driver reminded me with a smile. I scoffed, will a seatbelt make us safe? What? Do you want us, including the baby in my belly, to look decent when we die? The driver froze, probably not expecting me to be so blunt. He lowered his head, flustered. Madam, I know you're not speaking from the heart, I cut him off. How much did Rhett pay you to kill me? I'll double it. What money, madam? To be honest, my wife is about to undergo cancer surgery, and I'm in a hurry to get home. Although I don't understand why the boss specifically told me to drive faster, I figured no matter how urgent it is, I still have to get you and the young master home safely. The driver was from the countryside, honest and straightforward. He rubbed his hands together and didn't seem to be lying. My mind couldn't help but recall the events of my past life. The car lost control while turning, and the driver desperately pulled the handbrake, causing a rollover and rear-end collision. He died on the spot, and I was left disabled. During the inspection, they said there was an issue with the braking system. I found it suspicious because the car had just been serviced a few days ago. After some investigation, I found out Rhett was behind it all. While checking the accounts, I discovered Rhett had given the driver's wife a substantial consolation payment. So I always thought the driver had intended his death to secure money for his wife's medical treatment. But now I understand. He was deceived by Rhett too. Rhett sure knows how to play the game, sacrificing an innocent person in a staged car crash just to keep his hands clean. Thinking of this, I tucked the bank card into the driver's pocket. There's $500,000 in here. You don't need to drive me anymore, go home. Your wife must need you now. I only ask that you keep this a secret for me. The driver adamantly refused payment. I forced the bank card into his pocket and pushed him out of the car. He knocked on the window, tears brimming in his eyes. Madam, you're a good person. You and your child will be safe and sound for life. Yes. We will. I hurriedly wheeled my luggage onto the path, hearing faint rustling behind me. It was Rhett's bodyguards. It seemed my every move was under his surveillance. No matter what, they were determined to act today. Rhett's family wielded immense influence. There was no escape for me. As long as evil lives, there will never be peace. I caressed my belly, soothing the unborn child I had yet to meet but already cared deeply for. Mommy failed to protect you and herself in the last life, letting the wicked have their way. But don't worry, in this life, I will make sure they pay with their lives. I hailed a taxi and deliberately raised my voice. Driver, to the Maternity and Child Health Hospital. In the private clinic room. The doctor's expression turned grave after reviewing the 4D ultrasound. Ruth, sit here and rest for a while. I'll be back soon. As he spoke, he considerately handed me a glass of water. I took a small sip. Once he left, I spat it back out. Then I frantically rinsed my mouth with bottled water and poured it all onto the flowers on the balcony. In my past life, I was betrayed by those closest to me, and in this life I trust no one. I sent the secretly recorded 4D scan to my younger sister. She's also an outstanding obstetrician. Sis, the fetus is fine, everything's normal, what's wrong? As expected, the doctor was bribed. Wait until we get back, then I'll tell you. I calmly took out my earphones from my bag. Earlier, I had deliberately sewn the bug into the hidden layer of the bag Rhett often carried. The bug transmitted Lilith's tearful voice. When is the surgery? Noah can't wait any longer. The doctor stammered. Rhett, I saw Ruth drink the drugged water, but the fetus is very healthy. If we perform a C-section 2 months early, the baby will most likely not survive. Rhett seemed hesitant. Lilith, can't we think of another way? Other ways? If there were other ways, would I even need to come begging you? Lilith's voice was urgent. Even if her child isn't saved, she can still have more, can't she? But I can't bear children anymore. Noah is my life. If anything happens to him, I won't live either. These words made me seethe with rage, grinding my teeth in fury. Just because she can't bear children, she wants to take my child's life? I don't understand what you're hesitating about. Are you actually feeling sorry for her? Lilith was sobbing uncontrollably. Rhett's voice was ice cold. Of course not, I'm just worried that forcing things might escalate the situation and damage our family's reputation. But now I can't afford to care about that anymore. Doctor, prepare for the surgery. After hearing their conversation, I immediately called the police. Shortly after hanging up, footsteps echoed in the hallway. I pretended to faint and lay on the hospital bed. The door opened. Rhett, afraid I might wake up, suggested the doctor give me another injection. I abruptly opened my eyes, startling the doctor holding the syringe. How did you? He looked at the empty cup on the table, somewhat puzzled. Turning hostile wouldn't benefit me, buying time was the best option. I must have dozed off while waiting. How's the baby doing? Spotting Rhett behind him, I feigned shock. Oh, honey? What are you doing here? Weren't you busy? True to someone who's seen it all. Rhett remained composed, his expression unreadable. He sat beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder with sorrowful concern. The doctor said the baby's condition isn't very good, so I came over right away. The doctor quickly seized the opportunity to add, yes, I was afraid you wouldn't be able to accept it, so I called your husband first. The baby has congenital heart disease. We strongly recommend that you consider inducing labor. What? Ruth, when I first heard the news, I had a hard time accepting it too. But I imagine you, like me, wouldn't want our baby to suffer after birth, right? Just thinking about how he'd be dependent on medication, unable to engage in vigorous activities, where even running could be dangerous, it's too much suffering. We can't be that selfish. If it weren't for this second chance at life, I might have been fooled by his strong arms and perfect acting. But now, I see through his hypocrisy and it just makes me sick. I shook my head. Honey, isn't heart disease treatable? With your family's wealth and resources, replacing a child's heart shouldn't be too difficult, right? You know he's been in my belly for 8 months. At first, I couldn't keep anything down due to morning sickness, then I couldn't sleep night after night. I've endured so much suffering, but I pulled through it all. We've listened to his heartbeat together, chosen his name, and joyfully awaited his birth. How can you really bear to give up on him now? I practically spat out those last 3 words through gritted teeth. Rhett's face turned ashen and grim. Of course I'm reluctant, but... Enough with the buts. Are the test results accurate? Could it be that the baby isn't fully developed yet because it's still early? Can't we wait and monitor the situation longer? Rhett stiffened, still trying to reason with me. I had been patiently engaging with him. Unexpectedly, the door burst open with a bang. Lilith stormed in, gripping a gleaming silver fruit knife. Rhett, why are you still wasting words on her? If she won't agree to the C-section, then I'll just help her. As she spoke, she charged toward me. Rhett quickly stopped her. Lilith struggled in vain, then fell to her knees with a thud, pressing the knife's tip to her own throat. Rhett, will it take both Noah and me dying before your eyes for you to make up your mind? Her cries were utterly heart-wrenching, pitiable enough to move anyone. Rhett, visibly affected, helped Lilith up. In his eyes, she was a good mother. But I knew the truth, she was selfish, scheming, and cruel. After they murdered my child, I confronted them to demand the truth. She slapped me hard and sneered, my son is Rhett's eldest heir. That bastard of yours was just a vessel to extend his life. She was afraid I would cling on endlessly, so she and Rhett pushed me down the stairs to kill me. But given the current situation, Rhett wouldn't let her act impulsively. I withdrew my hand from the bag, where I had been about to pull out my butterfly knife, and pretended to be frightened as I hid behind Rhett. Honey, what is she talking about? Rhett noticed a trickle of blood on Lilith's neck. Panicking slightly, he grabbed my wrist and insisted, Ruth, be good. We really can't keep this child. We'll have another one someday. No, I won't agree. I mustered all my strength and bit his hand hard. Rhett winced in pain but still didn't let go. He signaled to the doctor with his eyes. Don't just stand there, hurry up. Seeing this, Lilith also got up to help. Several people held me down tightly. Just as the sedative was about to be injected, the police arrived. I ran barefoot to them, pointing at the people inside the room with tears streaming down my face, sobbing, it's them, they tried to murder me and the baby in my belly. At the police station. The forensic officer handed me the test results. Ruth, the residual liquid in the cup wasn't a sedative, it was a calming agent. The doctor said that water wasn't meant for you, and we can't verify the truth of that claim. I pointed at Rhett, but he forced me to have a C-section. Rhett laughed and pointed at my belly, that's my flesh and blood too, why would I force you into a C-section? I pointed at the doctor, they colluded, claiming my baby had congenital heart disease and suggested I terminate the pregnancy. But I consulted experts, my child is perfectly healthy. The doctor pondered for a moment, Ruth, if you suspect any issue with my diagnosis, you're welcome to request a re-examination. There's no need to involve the police. I then turned and pointed at Lilith, what about her? She barged into the ward with a knife, trying to kill me. Lilith looked utterly wronged. Ruth, how could you falsely accuse me like this? I was just desperate to save our son and wanted to ask Rhett, his biological father, for help. She pointed at her own neck. Besides, the knife was clearly aimed at myself, okay? The three individuals spoke with a unified account, corroborating each other's stories. It was as if I had persecution paranoia. After leaving the police station, everyone got into the car and left. Rhett's face darkened. Ruth, since you already know everything, why are you still pretending? Shouldn't I be the one asking you that? He frowned and lowered his voice. Ruth, I was wrong to deceive you, but Noah truly needs the cord blood. Can you stop being so stubborn? It's just one unborn child. If you want, we can have 10 more. I don't give a damn. What a damn thing to say. Born or unborn, both are lives. His Noah has seen the world for 8 years, but the child in my belly was killed by them before even getting to see its own mother. I looked straight into Rhett's eyes. What if I disagree? His gaze was like an abyss, his voice icy. I always get what I want. You have no choice. Ruth, don't force me to take drastic measures. Since it's come to this, then don't blame me. Instantly, I changed my expression and linked arms with him. Rhett, you know I love you deeply. I'd do anything for you, so why not just say it directly? Why beat around the bush like this? You're right, we can always have another child. I'll agree to give Noah the cord blood, but you have to promise me one condition. Rhett didn't expect me to agree so readily. Name your terms, a villa, luxury cars, it's all within reach. He frowned, but, are you really willing to have a C-section 2 months early? I frowned with difficulty. What if I refuse? But Noah is also your son. My condition is simple, I don't trust domestic doctors. I want to go abroad and consult foreign specialists. I wasn't wrong. Foreign countries are always more advanced in such unconventional techniques. Rhett immediately agreed to my conditions. He booked the flights overnight and boarded the plane with me, who was heavily pregnant, and Lilith and her son. Inside the cabin, Noah, wearing a mask, was physically exhausted, his eyes full of hostility when he looked at me. He whispered to Lilith, Mom, what if she changes her mind? I'm so scared of dying abroad. Lilith patted his weak body soothingly. Don't worry, if she dares to play tricks, your father will make sure she and the bastard in her belly join you in the grave. I smirked coldly and closed my eyes, gently stroking my belly. My baby, they probably still don't know. The moment they boarded the plane, their lives were already counting down. After the plane landed, Rhett immediately bought 2 villas. To prevent me from escaping, he had over 20 bodyguards protect me outside the villas. At night, while he was taking a shower, I managed to get his phone. On it were his chat logs with Lilith. Lilith said, Rhett, after collecting the cord blood, we'll remarry. No matter how much she protests, it won't change a thing. Rhett replied, of course. If it weren't for saving Noah, why would I have gone through a fake divorce with you and married her? No wonder Lilith called my child a tool for saving lives. Back when they were fighting, Rhett chased me under the guise of being single just to provoke her. Using his father's death, less than 3 years prior, as an excuse, he refused to hold a wedding for me. After learning I was pregnant, he suddenly disappeared. Not long after, he confessed he wasn't actually divorced yet. For the sake of our child, I went with him to finalize his divorce and then married him. Turns out, Noah had already been diagnosed with leukemia by then. Continued scrolling down. She won't have the chance to make a fuss anymore. Didn't she actively want to come abroad? Then let her stay here forever. It seems Rhett readily agreed to bring me abroad because he never intended to let me return. I smirked as I changed the expert's phone number he had booked to my brother-in-law Gideon's. Then, I sent a message to my sister Raven. Ready? My sister replied quickly, let's do this, sis. My faint smile was reflected on the phone's darkened screen. Good, the show is about to begin. Noah's condition worsened. The surgery was scheduled a few days earlier than planned. I suggested going out for a stroll. Rhett firmly refused, afraid that any mishap would ruin the plan. I pouted and whined pitifully. I want to buy some clothes for the baby. His expression remained unchanged. With a tearful voice, I caressed my belly. If the baby really doesn't make it, just imagine how sad he'll be knowing his daddy wouldn't even buy him clothes. What if he comes back to ask you for them? I whispered while blowing air behind his ear. Rhett's arm instantly broke out in goosebumps. He looked slightly uncomfortable. Didn't the experts say that delivering 2 months early with specific medication would stimulate cell growth, ensuring the baby survives healthily? I smirked coldly. If such a miracle drug really existed, what mother wouldn't want to deliver her child sooner? But it was all nonsense fabricated by my brother-in-law. Probably worried I might back out halfway, he picked up his clothes and called in all the bodyguards. It's just one piece of clothing, I could buy an entire shopping mall without batting an eye. Let's just do it early and go back early. Although Rhett was reluctant, he agreed for fear that I might make a scene. Inside the mall, despite being pregnant, I stubbornly shopped for over an hour. Rhett was getting impatient. Smiling, I shook his arm coquettishly and pleaded, just one last thing, then we'll go home. Holding a maternity dress, I entered the fitting room amidst his tired expression. Sis, it's been 10 years, I've missed you so much. The moment I stepped inside, my sister Raven tightly embraced me. The cramped fitting room mirrored 2 identical faces, except one had a pregnant belly and the other didn't. That's right, my sister Raven and I are twins. No one could tell the difference except my parents. Besides, Raven was so easygoing and plump that she looked practically identical to me during my pregnancy. Rhett knew I have a biological sister abroad. But I never told him that we look exactly alike. In my past life, didn't he secretly switch my baby? Well, in this life, I'll give him a taste of his own medicine. Raven, don't you have the slightest doubt about my reincarnation? Raven swiftly put on my makeup and tied the fake pregnancy belly around her waist. Sis, on the day you passed, I had a dream. I saw Rhett tampering with the brakes, causing your sudden accident. They weren't rushing to operate on your blood-soaked body, but instead were desperately cutting you open to take the baby out. Later, when you were barely moving in the wheelchair, that bastard and his slut pushed you down the stairs. Your blood and my nephew's blood painted the entire dream red. We were all crying, while they were laughing. Raven gritted her teeth, scumbag and bitch, murderers, they deserve to die. But I was still somewhat worried about her and Gideon. Raven took my hand. Sis, we're not afraid. Abroad, anything done for freedom can be understood. On the day of the surgery, the Raven pretending to be me was wheeled into the delivery room. Lilith sighed in relief, linking arms with Rhett as she sneered, Ruth really loves you, huh? Too bad she's not the brightest. And you're pretty ruthless too, not even showing a hint of distress. She's just a plaything, how could she compare to you? The nurse said Noah's nosebleed wouldn't stop and he needed to be admitted to the ward immediately. Lilith didn't trust the bodyguards, so she gritted her teeth and instructed Rhett, keep an eye on Ruth. Once we get the cord blood, everything will be over. Before entering the ward, she encouraged Noah. Don't worry, son. Mom and Dad will be waiting for you when you come out. But what no one expected was that the fake Raven impersonating me, who had been waiting in the delivery room and was about to undergo a cesarean section, inexplicably vanished from the operating table. Rhett went berserk. He frantically searched the operating room, screaming and cursing. The bodyguards immediately checked the surveillance footage at the entrance. However, aside from a few masked nurses coming and going, there was no sign of a pregnant woman leaving. His eyes bloodshot, Rhett roared at the hospital director, where is she? How can a living person just disappear? The director couldn't comprehend his outburst and called the police at once. This surgery had been conducted clandestinely across departments, as he had promised the specialists confidentiality. Officially, it was claimed to be a routine bone marrow donation, but in reality, it was for umbilical cord blood treatment. but Lilith screamed and cried, demanding that Rhett find someone. Rhett had no choice but to confess everything. The dean mumbled something, and the interpreter explained. The dean said the expert you mentioned went abroad for further study yesterday. Rhett was dumbfounded. He collapsed onto the floor, his face ashen. Then who was the person I've been in contact with all this time, the one who promised to perform the surgery? Lilith slapped Rhett hard across the face. Rhett, are you seriously this unreliable? Making the wrong appointment with a doctor is one thing, but how could you lose track of a living, breathing person? She was pulled away by the police but still screamed at the top of her lungs. Noah has already entered the isolation ward. If we can't find Ruth, he's done for. Rhett clutched his swollen face in panic and grabbed the officer. My wife disappeared out of nowhere in this hospital. She's pregnant, you have to find her. The officers conducted a room-by-room search but found nothing. Rhett was practically ready to tear up the floor of the delivery room in desperation. Little did they know. After entering the operating room, Raven had removed her fake pregnancy belly, changed into a nurse's uniform, and walked out as if nothing had happened. She just came in and is complaining to me about how unbearably stuffy the fake pregnancy belly is. Soon after, her brother-in-law Gideon returned with several bags of groceries. He tossed the snapped phone card into the trash, rolled up his sleeves, and began preparing the vegetables. Didn't Sis say she was craving hot pot? We'll have it for lunch. After all, this kind of procedure is unethical to begin with, so even the police couldn't do anything about it. Since I couldn't go out easily, Raven took an extended leave to stay with me. Weeks passed, and everything remained peaceful on my end. Over on the other side, though, the bugs picked up nothing but intense arguments between Rhett and Lilith. It's all your fault for insisting on listening to her and coming abroad. It's been a whole week, and we still can't find her. What about Noah? And you call yourself a CEO? Can't even handle such a simple matter without messing up? Aren't you ashamed? Rhett grew impatient. Can you stop nagging? Who knew she'd just vanish into thin air? And you're saying I'm shameful? Isn't it more embarrassing for you to make such a scene? Even at her worst, Ruth would never act like a shrew like you. Lilith was so angry she started hitting him. Stop this madness, will you? A loud slap echoed through the room, and Lilith burst into tears. Rhett, are you even human? You actually hit me. Now you're remembering how good she was, aren't you? Fine, then go find her and save my son. I'll gladly step aside for you too. Rhett remained silent for a long time. Moments later, the sound of tearing fabric echoed. A bug? He sneered, his voice sinister through the phone. Ruth, you're listening, right? Playing me? Ha, you've got guts. Do you want to find out what happens when you mess with me? I know you haven't returned to the country. You're due in just over a month, right? Stay hidden, give birth in secret, and make sure I never find you. Next came a sharp burst of static. Raven covered her ears with a frown. Sis, Noah probably won't last a month. Dragging him to death isn't a problem. But what about Rhett? He'll do whatever it takes to find us. I'm afraid he might hurt you and my nephew. I glanced at the gun on the wall and smiled. See? Didn't he bring this on himself? Noah died 3 days before the due date. Gideon was the one who found out at the hospital. I heard that when he died, blood kept pouring from his nose, and he weakly gasped, I'll never believe you again. Lilith fainted on the spot. Rhett smashed the door glass with a single punch. Raven helped me prepare the essentials for childbirth. Sis, all the hospitals have his connections, and I heard Rhett has already searched the next street over. It's only a matter of days now. Perhaps afraid I'd worry, she picked up a tiny outfit and held it against my belly. But don't worry, my dear. Even if it costs this old life of mine, your auntie will protect you and your mom at all costs. We had just finished speaking. The landline in the room rang. It was Rhett. His voice was hoarse. Ruth is your twin sister, right? You two play this body-swapping game quite well, huh? Tell me where you live. I know this was all her idea, and I don't blame you. But she killed my son, and I need to ask her face to face. Raven sneered, you don't blame me? Who the hell do you think you are? I haven't even asked you why you killed my nephew, and you have the audacity to question me? Rhett, if your conscience has been eaten by a dog, go ask the dog for it back, okay? Rhett's voice trembled, do you believe I'd let you? Shut your mouth already. If it weren't for Rhett's grandfather leaving the family fortune to you, you'd be nothing. With your narrow-mindedness and twisted values, you're a disgrace to your grandfather. Raven threw my written words at Rhett, each sentence striking his weak spot. He hated nothing more than people calling him useless and dependent on his grandfather. Fine. Then go ahead and wait to bury my son. Raven spat back, come on then, you idiot. The call ended. Raven went to check the outdoor surveillance cameras installed in the yard again. She clapped her hands, sis, a 360-degree coverage within a 100-meter radius with no blind spots. Even so, my sister and brother-in-law still took turns keeping watch. On the night before my due date, they arrived. The baby was restless in my belly, making it hard to sleep, so I went to the living room. In the dim moonlight, the room remained unlit. Raven and Gideon saw me come out, made a shushing gesture, and pointed at the monitor in unison. On the screen, Rhett and Lilith were surrounding my yard with over a dozen bodyguards. They were wearing sunglasses and wrapped up tightly. Then, several of them broke the door lock and entered. The door was being pounded loudly by them. Gideon glanced at me and Raven and asked, who is it? Here to take my wife home. I responded, I don't want to go back with you. Just leave. Lilith cursed loudly, trying to provoke me into coming out. You bitch, you killed my son and still think you can live in peace? Get out here now, or we're coming in. Raven has never been one to hold her tongue since childhood. She raised her voice, rolled up her sleeves, and started hurling curses back, using the filthiest language. Oh wow, out here late at night with someone else's husband, calling others bitches, aren't you shameless? What the hell are you barking about? Your son deserved it, go ask the king of hell if you want answers. Lilith was so furious she could barely catch her breath. You're the one who should drop dead. Damn you. What are you all standing around for? Break down the door and drag them out. That bitch has a nasty mouth, I swear I'll slap her to death. As the door was violently rammed, we turned on the recording and shouted outside, we have guns. Don't come looking for death. One bodyguard seemed hesitant, boss, this would be breaking and entering. Lilith sneered sarcastically, if you're scared, then piss off, you worthless trash. Rhett curled his lips. They're just trying to scare us. Shoot? Does Ruth even have the guts? If you bring Ruth back today, I'll buy each of you a villa. The bodyguard's eyes lit up, emboldened by the encouragement as they banged loudly on the door. But they didn't notice Rhett quietly pulling Lilith back a few steps. Who knows if they actually have a gun? Ruth might not dare, but her brother-in-law is hard to say. If things really escalate later, we should stay farther back. Lilith's eyes gleamed, true, you thought it through quite well. Gideon carefully took the gun off the wall. He wiped the gun muttering, consider it my ass. This is a shotgun, one blast can take out 10 or 8. If they dare come in, I'll make sure they're blown to bits. Seeing they wouldn't listen, we had no choice but to hold up our guns, faces stern before the camera. We were sleeping soundly when someone started banging on the door like crazy, shouting they were going to kill us. We didn't want to resort to violence, but we had no choice to defend ourselves. After a fierce collision, the door burst open. Several people rushed in instantly. The sound of Gideon's gunshot rang out abruptly, sparks flying in the dim light. Several bodyguards were flung far away, immediately collapsing to the ground motionless. The few who rushed in later were also caught off guard and collapsed to the ground with a gunshot sound. The cream-colored floor was smeared with blood and flesh, crimson spreading everywhere. Red and Lilith were stunned to see over a dozen people perish instantly. They collapsed to the ground in unison. Gideon blew on the smoking barrel of the gun and handed it to me. Sis, these two main dishes are for you. Faced with imminent danger, who isn't afraid of death? When I aimed the gun at the two of them, they both backed away. Lilith had completely lost her earlier bravado. Kneeling on the ground with a sob in her voice, she pleaded, I was wrong, Ruth, spare me. I lost my mind after losing my son. Please don't kill me. Rhett pretended to remain calm as he stood up. Ruth, we were wrong. Just let us go, and I won't pursue those people's deaths. Let's just forget about Noah's matter, alright? Consider it settled. He watched me stroking my belly, his voice trembling, and Ruth, if you kill me, the baby in your belly will have no father. I remained silent. Lilith seemed to have found a weakness. She stood up and pushed Rhett forward, whispering, she won't hurt you. Go take the gun from her. Thinking I didn't hear, Rhett stood up and walked while coaxing me, let's talk this out. Put the gun down. I know you won't shoot me. Just as he thought he was about to succeed, I pulled the trigger. Bang. The closer, the more accurate, indeed. Rhett's face exploded in an instant. Under the moonlight, he lay twisted on the ground, dead on the spot. I staggered from the recoil of the gun, but fortunately, Gideon caught me. A sharp pain shot through my abdomen. While the two were checking on me, Lilith quickly got into the car and drove away. Raven picked up the gun to chase her, but Gideon stopped her, forget about her for now. Let's get her to the hospital first, the baby's coming. The baby arrived a night early. It's a boy. My sister and her husband delivered him. He looks like me, healthy and lively. Police officers waited outside the delivery room. My sister Raven handled all the communication with the police. With the surveillance footage and testimony from several neighbors who witnessed the scene, it was more than enough to prove that a whole group of them had broken into our home. Our counterattack was completely justified. Overseas, shooting and killing intruders during a home invasion wouldn't even be questioned. After seeing the police off, Raven still seemed a bit upset. What a shame that woman got away. I patted her shoulder to comfort her. I believe fate is keeping her alive because living will be far worse for her than dying. Since the child needed to be registered after birth, I didn't stay long and returned to China. Before boarding the plane, both Raven and I wiped away our tears. Sorry for causing you concern and making you move again. When are you coming back to China? I'll treat you and your brother-in-law to a meal. Raven sighed helplessly, sis, we've just settled down here, and I'm not sure what I could even do if we went back. Mom's getting older too, I'll work for a few more years to earn more, then we'll go home. She put the longevity lock around my son Jonah's neck, teasing him. Little one, make lots of money in the future. Auntie is counting on you to support her. I waved the baby's little hand and said in a high-pitched voice, no problem, Auntie, I'll do my best. Raven hugged me and sobbed for a long time, then she hesitated in worry. Sis, you killed Rhett. His family will definitely make things hard for you. Why don't we call the police now? Let them pick him up at the airport and request extra officers to protect you around the clock. No need. I looked down at Jonah in my arms and smiled calmly. Having him as my protector is more than enough. He's Rhett's family's sole heir. What do I have to fear? Things went far more smoothly than I'd imagined. %. Although Rhett's family elders were deeply grieved, after understanding the facts, they knew that no matter how much they struggled, the family's fortune would still entirely belong to Jonah, so they simply turned a blind eye. I patted the little one. Seems like your aunt wasn't wrong about you. Not long after, Raven and Gideon moved back to their homeland with their entire family. Both of them had all the necessary certificates and qualifications in order. I bought them a villa and set up a private maternity hospital for them. On my mom's birthday, I took Jonah to the hospital to pick them up. On the way back, they were all smiles playing with Jonah. Passing by the square, a group of elderly people were dancing to music. Jonah couldn't resist swaying to the rhythm in my arms. Nephew likes it. Let's go take a look. Just as we stepped onto the stairs, a figure rushed toward me. Raven quickly pulled me aside. That person tumbled down the stairs head over heels. And as luck would have it, a car was speeding by at that very moment. The onlookers exclaimed in shock. We all rushed downstairs. In the twilight glow, the person lying on the ground turned out to be Lilith. Her face was pale, and after convulsing a few times, she lost consciousness. The leg was crushed beyond recognition. It looked eerily similar to mine in my past life. That day after I returned to the country, Raven accused Lilith of trespassing into a private residence. She spent a fortune to settle the lawsuit and return home safely. But without the backing of Rhett, her life became increasingly precarious. Today, she happened to run into me. Seeing our happy family, she tried to take me down with her. The driver hurriedly got out of the car to call the police and an ambulance. Later, I heard she had become disabled, unable to care for herself, forced to live in a wheelchair day after day. And later still, I happened to see her again once. On the day of the family photo, she was hunched over, struggling to pick up trash. Passers-by pointed and whispered. She used to be quite glamorous back in the day. Later, I heard that to save her child with leukemia, she faked a divorce with her ex-husband, tricked another girl into getting pregnant, and forced the girl to undergo an early C-section 2 months ahead to extract umbilical cord blood. The result was her son didn't survive, her husband died, and now she's like this. She certainly brought it upon herself. So you see, people must keep their hearts in the right place, otherwise, heaven will punish you. I raised my head. The sky was azure. Thank you, heaven, for giving me Jonah.